She cancels plans last minute. Again. Not because she's busy. Not because she's losing interest. But because she's attracted, and that makes you dangerous. Here's what nobody tells you about attraction: the more she feels it, the harder she'll test you. The more she wants you, the more she'll push to see if you'll stay. There's a reason for that. And it's darker than you think. Before we go deeper, think about the last time she went cold right after getting close. That moment when everything felt perfect, and then suddenly, distance. Got that feeling? Hold it. Because what I'm about to show you will reveal why that wasn't rejection. It was something far more primal. Have you ever noticed how she's sweetest with men she doesn't care about? How she's easiest with guys she'll never sleep with? How she saves her chaos, her coldness, her cruelty for the ones who actually matter? Most men interpret tests as rejection. They think, she's pulling away, she must not be interested. So they back off. They give her space. They try to be understanding. And that's exactly how they lose her. But here's what gets dark. Because what she's actually asking isn't, "Do you like me?" It's something far more primal. Far more unconscious. She's asking, "Can I break you?" Not because she wants to. But because someone else did. And if you're going to shatter her eventually, and her nervous system is convinced you will, she needs to know now. Before she gives you more. Before the stakes get higher. Before you have the power to destroy her completely. Have you ever wondered why she goes cold right after intimacy? Why she picks fights after you've opened your heart? Why she doubts you most when you're being most genuine? Have you ever felt that whiplash, where everything's perfect one moment, and the next she's accusing you of things you didn't do? Where she's warm and close, and then suddenly distant, testing whether you'll chase? Have you ever noticed she's hardest on you after you've been vulnerable? After you've admitted you care? After you've given her the knife? Why does attraction make her more dangerous, not less? Why does wanting you turn her into a detective searching for proof you'll leave? Why does she test hardest the men she's most afraid to lose? Here's what most dating advice won't tell you. Her tests aren't about you. They're about every man who came before you. Every wound she's still carrying. Every moment she trusted and got betrayed. But here's what nobody will tell you. There's a reason why the same woman who tortures you is gentle with strangers. There's a reason her chaos only shows up with men who matter. And when you understand that reason, when you see what's really happening beneath her tests, everything changes. Not just with her, but with every woman you'll ever want. Because the paradox isn't that she tests you despite being attracted. The paradox is that she tests you because she's attracted. And that truth, that one inversion, will show you something about human vulnerability most people never see. Let me show you what's really happening. Most men think tests are about proving worthiness. If I just pass enough tests, she'll finally trust me. If I just stay consistent enough, patient enough, strong enough, she'll stop doubting me. But that's not how this works. Because her tests aren't rational evaluation. They're not a checklist she's consciously running. They're something far more primitive. Something her nervous system is doing to her. Not something she's doing to you. Let me show you the difference between what it looks like on the surface, and what's actually happening underneath. Surface level, she cancels plans, she goes cold, she creates distance. It looks like she's losing interest. It looks like rejection. So you respond the way any reasonable person would, you back off. You give her space. You try not to be needy. And she feels abandoned. Again. But here's the deeper truth. She's not testing whether you're interested. She already knows you're interested. That's what makes you dangerous. She's testing whether you're safe. And the only way her nervous system knows how to test for safety is by creating the exact conditions that made her feel unsafe before. Think about that for a second. She pushes you away, not to see if you'll leave, but to see if you'll stay. She goes cold, not because she doesn't feel anything, but because she feels too much. She picks fights, not to hurt you, but to see if you'll still be there when the dust settles. It's the same pattern that shows up in every psychology textbook under different names. Attachment theory calls it protest behavior. Freud called it repetition compulsion. Jung called it something deeper. The shadow's attempt to integrate trauma by recreating it. Here's how Jung saw it. We don't just remember our wounds. We reenact them. We unconsciously create situations that mirror our original pain. Because some part of us is still trying to master it, to control it, to prove we can survive it. When she tests you, she's not being manipulative. She's being human. She's replaying the abandonment she's terrified of, so that if it happens, at least she saw it coming. At least she had her hands on the wheel. Have you ever noticed how she's calmest with men who don't matter? How she's easiest with guys she'll never love? That's because there's no risk there. No wound to protect. No vulnerability to defend against. But with you? With someone who actually matters? Every defense she's ever built comes online. Every wall. Every test. Every unconscious strategy her nervous system learned to survive connection without getting annihilated by it. And here's the part that'll shift everything for you. The tests don't mean she doesn't want you. They mean she's terrified of how much she wants you. Think about the last time she went cold after you got close. What did you do? Did you pull away? Did you assume she needed space? Did you give her the distance she seemed to be asking for? And did that distance confirm her deepest fear, that when she shows up messy, she gets abandoned? This is where most men get it backwards. They think, tests equals lack of attraction. So they withdraw. They protect themselves. They stop investing. But her nervous system reads that as, he left when it got real. Just like the others. What if the tests aren't obstacles to intimacy? What if they're invitations? Not conscious invitations. Not logical ones. But invitations nonetheless, from her wounded parts to your steady presence. From her chaos to your groundedness. There's a deeper truth here. One that changes everything. But to see it, we need to go into the shadow. Into the part most people never look at. Here's the truth most people never admit. We test hardest the people we're most afraid to lose. Not because we're broken. Not because we're sabotaging. But because the terror of vulnerability makes us dangerous. And nowhere is that more true than in the realm of attraction. Let me show you what's happening in the shadow, the part of her psyche she doesn't even have access to. Imagine a theater. She's sitting in the audience, watching a movie of her own life. But she doesn't realize the movie isn't live footage, it's a projection. The projector is hidden in the back row. And it's loaded with old film. Scenes from childhood. Scenes from past relationships. Scenes where she learned that wanting someone gives them the power to destroy her. So when you show up, when she actually starts to feel something real, the projector kicks on. And suddenly she's not seeing you anymore. She's seeing the outline of every man who ever hurt her. She's watching the same movie she's seen 100 times, this time it'll be different, turning into, of course he left. You haven't done anything yet. But the projector doesn't care. It's running on old film. Old wounds. Old terror. And here's what Jung understood that most people miss. She's not testing you. She's testing the projection. She's asking, is this one different? Or is he just another version of the man who left when I needed him most? And the only way she knows how to ask that question is by recreating the conditions where men usually leave. She goes cold to see if you'll abandon her when she's not easy. She picks fights to see if you'll stay when she's not perfect. She creates chaos to see if you'll run when things get messy. Because if you're going to leave, if you're going to prove that she was right to never trust anyone, she'd rather find out now. Before she's completely vulnerable. Before you have the full power to break her. The terror of vulnerability makes us most dangerous toward those we actually want. Think about that for a second. Why is she sweetest with the bartender? Why is she kind to her coworkers? Why does she save her worst behavior for you? Because those people can't hurt her. They don't have access to the part of her that's still wounded. Still raw. Still terrified of being seen and then abandoned for what they see. But you? You're getting close to that part. You're approaching the wound. And her shadow, the unconscious defense mechanism, goes into overdrive. Here's what this looks like in real terms. She opens up one night. Tells you something real. Shows you a piece of her she usually hides. And the next day, she's distant. Cold. Canceling plans. Not because she regrets opening up. but because she's terrified of what happens now that you've seen her. Now that you have the knife, will you use it? Her nervous system doesn't wait to find out. It preemptively tests. It creates distance to see if you'll close it. It goes cold to see if you'll bring warmth. It pushes you away to see if you'll fight to stay. And here's the shadow paradox at the core of all of this. The more she wants you, the more she needs proof you won't leave. But the only way she knows how to get that proof is by doing things that usually make people leave. This is what Jung called the repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate our trauma in hopes of finally mastering it. She's not trying to push you away. She's trying to see if you're the kind of man who stays when she's not performing. When she's not easy. When she's not the version of herself she thinks you want. Have you ever watched someone you care about sabotage something good? Have you ever seen them pick fights right when things are going well? Have you ever wondered why people destroy the very thing they want most? It's not sabotage. It's protection. It's the shadow saying, if this is going to end, let it end on my terms. Let me control the blade. Let me be the one who sees it coming. Now here's where it gets even deeper, and this is the part that changes everything. You probably have your own version of this. Maybe you don't test through distance. Maybe you test through over-pursuit. Through trying to prove your worth. Through asking for validation disguised as reassurance. Have you ever pulled away because you were afraid she'd leave first? Have you ever played it cool because you didn't want to seem needy? Have you ever hidden how much you cared because vulnerability felt like handing someone a loaded gun? That's your projector. Your old film. Your wound. Your shadow protecting you from the terror of being fully seen and then rejected for what someone sees. Here's what Jung understood that most relationship advice misses entirely. This isn't about men versus women. This isn't about dating strategy. This is about two wounded nervous systems trying to connect without annihilating each other. She tests because she's terrified. You withdraw because you're terrified. And both of you are running patterns learned when you were too young to know you had a choice. Picture this. A river, raging after a storm. Fast. Dangerous. Unpredictable. Most men see that river and think, I need to get out of the water. This isn't safe. So they swim to shore. They protect themselves. They back off. And from the river, she watches them leave. And her shadow whispers, see? I told you. When it gets hard, they always leave. But what if the river isn't asking you to drown? What if it's asking, can you stay in the water without panicking? Can you be steady when I'm not? Not swept away by her chaos. But not abandoning her to it either. Steady. Present. Grounded. That's what her tests are really asking for. Not perfection. Not dominance. Not stoic detachment. Just someone who doesn't leave when the water gets rough. Because here's the final shadow truth. Every test she gives you is an unconscious question. Is it safe to let you in? And the only answer that matters isn't what you say. It's whether you stay. But there's a paradox here. One that changes everything. Because staying doesn't mean what most men think it means. And that's what we need to look at next. Remember at the beginning when I said her tests aren't rejection, they're something else entirely? Here's what I meant. The paradox is that she tests you because she's attracted, not despite it. The more she feels, the more dangerous you become. The more she wants you, the more her shadow needs proof you're not going to weaponize that want against her. And here's the part that'll shift everything. Passing her tests doesn't mean what you think it means. It doesn't mean being unaffected. It doesn't mean playing it cool. It doesn't mean never showing emotion or need or vulnerability. It means staying present when she can't. Let me show you what that actually looks like. She cancels plans last minute. Most men, okay, no problem. Let me know when you're free. Translation, I'm backing off to protect myself. What she hears, he's already leaving. Just like I knew he would. The paradox response, I hear you. I'm still taking you to dinner Thursday. Let me know if something changes. Translation, your chaos doesn't scare me. I'm not going anywhere. She goes cold after intimacy. Most men mirror her distance. Pull back. Give her space. Translation, if you're not sure, I'm out. What she hears, vulnerability equals abandonment. Don't do that again. The paradox response, stay warm. Not clingy, but present. Translation, you can go into your cave. I'll be here when you come out. She picks a fight out of nowhere. Most men defend. Explain. Prove she's wrong. Or worse, withdraw and shut down. What she hears, he can't handle me when I'm not easy. The paradox response, you seem activated. What's really going on? Translation, I see the test. I'm not taking the bait. But I'm also not leaving. Do you see the pattern? She's not testing whether you're interested. She's testing whether you're steady. Can you stay grounded when she's spinning? Can you stay present when she's pulling away? Can you stay warm when she goes cold? Not by chasing. Not by proving. Not by convincing her you're worthy. But by simply not leaving. Here's what Jung would say about this. When two people come together, their shadows meet first. Her wound encounters your wound. Her defense mechanisms trigger your defense mechanisms. And in that collision, you have a choice. React from your shadow. Pull away, defend, prove, chase. Or respond from your center, stay present, stay grounded, see the wound beneath the behavior. Most men fail her tests because they're reacting instead of responding. They take her distance personally. They interpret her coldness as disinterest. They see her chaos and think, this isn't worth it. But what if her chaos is the exact moment she's asking, are you different? What if the test isn't, do you like me enough to chase, but do you like yourself enough not to? Think about the men she's been with before. When she went cold, they probably chased. Or they left. When she created distance, they probably either collapsed into neediness or mirrored her distance with resentment. Either way, they proved her shadow right, men can't handle the real me. But you? You have the chance to do something different. Not by trying to pass her tests, but by being the kind of person who doesn't need to try. Here's the integration. She tests you because she's attracted. Because you matter. Because letting you in is terrifying. And the only way to pass is to stop seeing them as tests at all. They're not obstacles. They're not hoops to jump through. They're not games to win. They're a wounded nervous system asking, can I trust you with the parts of me I can barely trust myself with? And the answer isn't in what you say. It's in whether you stay. Not desperately. Not needily. Not convincing her of anything. Just, steady. Present when she's absent. Warm when she's cold. Grounded when she's spinning. That's the paradox. The men who pass her tests are the ones who aren't trying to pass them. They're just showing up as themselves. Solid. Unmoved by her chaos. Unshaken by her distance. Not because they don't care, but because they care enough to see what's really happening. And that's what her shadow has been searching for all along. So what do you do with this? How do you actually live this truth in real time, when she's pulling away, when she's cold, when every instinct in your body is screaming to protect yourself? Here's where the rubber meets the road. Stop interpreting her tests as verdicts about your worth. When she cancels, when she goes distant, when she picks fights, your nervous system will tell you a story. She doesn't want me. I'm not enough. I should leave before she does. That's your wound talking. Your projector. Your shadow trying to protect you from vulnerability. But here's the shift. What if her behavior isn't about you at all? What if it's just her nervous system doing what it learned to do when things feel too real, too vulnerable, too risky? You don't have to fix it. You don't have to convince her. You don't have to prove you're different. You just have to stay. Not chasing. Not withdrawn. Just present. Practice responding instead of reacting. When she goes cold, pause. Take a breath. Feel your nervous system activating, that tightness in your chest, that urge to either chase or flee. And instead of acting on it, ask yourself, what would it look like to stay grounded right now? Not performing strength. Not pretending you don't care. But genuinely staying in your center while she moves through whatever she's moving through. Maybe that's a simple text, "I'm here when you're ready." Maybe that's maintaining plans without resentment, "Still on for Thursday. Let me know if anything changes." Maybe that's just, not collapsing into neediness or hardening into distance. See the wound beneath the behavior. Every time she tests, there's a wounded part of her asking, "Is it safe?" When you see that, when you recognize the fear beneath the coldness, the terror beneath the distance, it becomes impossible to take it personally. You stop seeing her as difficult. You start seeing her as scared. And that shift in perception changes everything. Because you stop trying to win. You stop trying to prove. You just show up as someone who isn't going to abandon her when she's not perfect. Do your own shadow work. Here's the truth you need to hear. If her tests are triggering you, if her distance sends you into panic or resentment, that's information. That's your wound. Your attachment injury. Your own terror of abandonment showing up. You can't be steady for her if you're not steady in yourself. So ask yourself, when she pulls away, what story do I tell myself? When she goes cold, what fear gets activated in me? When she tests, what part of me feels like I'm failing? That's your shadow. The part of you that's still wounded. Still protecting. Still running old patterns. And until you integrate that, until you do the work to heal your own attachment wounds, you'll keep reacting instead of responding. Understand this, you can't control whether she chooses you. Some women are so deep in their wounds that no amount of steadiness will reach them. Some women aren't ready. Some women are still too identified with their shadow to let anyone in. And that's okay. This isn't about performing steadiness to win her over. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't collapse when someone else is dysregulated. Because that's not just attractive. That's integration. That's what it means to be whole. The final truth. She tests you because she's attracted. Because you matter. Because the stakes are high. And the only way to navigate that isn't by being perfect. It's by being present. Present when she's chaotic. Present when she's cold. Present when every bone in your body wants to run or chase or prove or fix. That's the work. Not passing tests. Not winning her over, but integrating your own shadow enough that you can stay steady in the face of hers. And when you do that, something shifts. Not because you've proven anything, but because she finally feels something she's been searching for her whole life. Someone who doesn't leave when it gets real. That's what her tests have always been asking for. And if you can be that, not by trying, but by becoming, everything changes. Not just with her, but with every person you'll ever want to connect with. Because the paradox of vulnerability is this. We test hardest the people we're most afraid to lose. And we trust most the people who stay anyway.